Okay, how do you go from thinking about whether you can move abroad, retire abroad, to actually doing it successfully? In this video, I will tell you exactly how to do that. Keep watching. Hey friends, welcome back to Single Women Retiring Abroad. You've seen the title. How can you go from contemplating the idea of maybe I could retire abroad to actually doing it? I have done it. Let me introduce myself again. I am Maggie Lazar. I am a retired nurse practitioner, and I retired to Panama alone, and I did it fairly successfully because I've been here almost 2 years and still loving it. I have not encountered any drama or anything that remotely could stress me out or anything I could have said, I never knew about that. Oh my God, this is a shock, a surprise. So if I can do it, so can you. So, how do you move from contemplating the idea of moving abroad, of retiring abroad, to actually successfully doing it? Well, I'm going to tell you, it starts with the notion that you ask yourself some personal question. You know, when you are thinking of putting down, your burden and everything you've been doing, working for these people for 40 plus years, when you're starting to think about, letting go of things and being in a place where you don't have to go clock in and out, you don't have to respond, to someone, and you don't have to depend on someone for your paycheck, it's a good time to do some introspection if you're not used to doing that and say, who am I? What environment can I thrive in? Am I flexible? Can I consider, imagine another way of living? Can I imagine myself anywhere else? I don't believe that many of us start off thinking, oh, when I get to be 65, I'm definitely going to move abroad. I'm not sure. There might be a percentage of people, let's say you took a gap year and you went and visited this little town in Spain or Italy or France, and you're like, I will go back there one day, probably when I retire. I have seen some people who had that line of thinking, but most of us, most of the expats you talk to have come to that contemplating mindset because of circumstances. And I shared in one of the videos that they did some surveys and they realized a couple of major reasons why people consider retiring abroad is the cost of living and healthcare. And the third one was the availability of a community in that area under consideration, right? So I'm telling you that if you are, let's say, 5 years out, you've bought into the idea that I'm going to retire when the government says I should. And you know that age 65 has been moving along. It's been 67, 68. For me, it was going to be 67 and 8 months. I mean, they're specific. It's not 67, 67 and 8 months. And I'm pretty sure they're probably going to put a date on it. So when you are 5, 10 years out, it's a good exercise to start thinking where, how you're going to spend the rest of your years. Because remember, and again, that is something that I discussed in one of the videos, when Social Security was enacted, it was designed to support workers that the government estimated would live another 5, 10 years past retirement. Because there was a guy, I don't remember his name, he, in his thinking, I think he wrote a book or an article that says, past age 50, you're no longer viable. Your mind starts to go down, your body starts to go down, then you need to retire and go sit somewhere. That's why I do not like the word retirement. I equate retirement with providing a service for a paycheck. If you work for yourself, there is no need to even conceive that notion of retirement, right? If it's something that you love. All right. So now, when Social Security was enacted, people were living, the average life expectancy was in the 60s. Now it's in the 70s and 80s. And I think in the last 10 years, it has even expanded to like 80, 90s. We have more octogenarians or people who live to be in their 90s, 100. I posted a video the other day about this 103-year-old little mama, and she was doing her exercises. And I was like, I want to be like her when I grow up. We are living longer and better. And there are all kinds of implications that should follow that trend. Okay, so you need to start doing that self-evaluation, the when and where and how. When can you retire? I retired at 62. Some people retire in their 50s. Some retire in their 40s. If you've never worked for someone, you've never worked for a corporation or a hospital, et cetera, and you getting a steady flow of income, you don't have to work for someone. So I don't know that you can talk about retirement, right? But some people, maybe they've done some investments, or maybe there was like a layoff and they got a good package and it was a good thing for them to retire. So you can retire before that government sponsored date, right? And I will tell you my story, I think in another video, about how I came to decide the very thing that I'm going to teach you in this video. And you know what? I believe I might have to do two videos because there is so much to unpack in the beginning to get you to start thinking, the contemplating part. And I think it's important not to rush the process. You have to allow yourself time. Hopefully you have time, you're not ill or anything like that, to start thinking. See, I'm a planner. I like to write things down and plan it out to see how it can happen. I will map anything, okay? But if you're not, if you're all over the place, it could be a little bit of a challenge. But I do have some documents that I put in the description to kind of help you do like an assessment and assess one country versus the other. But even before you get to the assessment of the countries, you have to start with yourself. All right. So let's start with the first thing that you need to consider. If you say, okay, let me think about what retirement might look like. And the first question you should ask yourself, is it a viable option? Can I afford it? Because I think that's something that's in most everybody's mind, because nobody wants to retire and start having to eat bread and Kool-Aid every day, right? Even though hopefully you've seen the news where the 70, 80-year-old grandpas and grandmas in the US and probably abroad are having to go back to work. Teachers retire on their little pension. It's not enough. And they go into Walmart and be a bagger, and so they can afford to buy their medication. That grieves my heart. I stumble across a channel, I think it's called The Forgotten People or something like that, where they're profiling. This guy is interviewing people who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and homeless, living in their cars, being on the streets. Oh my God. And when you hear the stories of those people, they were not homeless all their lives. They're lawyers, they're teachers, we have nurses, we have social workers. Something happened, a divorce, somebody got ill, they lost their money, maybe they have an addiction. Things happen. We have a large proportion of veterans. If you have mental issues, you're more at risk of being homeless. I'm sorry, somebody is drilling all day here in the building. So is it viable? are you going to be able to afford it? So what I need you to do right now is to go to www.ssa.gov, register, put your social security number in there, that the Social Security Administration, SSA, they have you in that big computer, believe it or not. They know everything about you. Just in case you didn't think so. And usually when I was in my 50s, I started getting letters that says your expected retirement day is. So hopefully you're getting those letters. And at full retirement, you expected this much money per month. And that is based on how many years you've been working and paying into the Medicare and Social Security system. And then they do their calculation and then they come up with a number. Look at that number and see if it's viable for you to live on that. Okay? The danger of that is Social Security was never designed, first of all, to take care of so many people for so long. So the program is basically going bankrupt because people like myself were living to be, well, I don't know, I hope. People nowadays are living to be 80s, 90s, so they're having to pay out for a lot longer for more people. So it's just unsustainable. And of course, the politicians have been threatening for years now to cut it. I don't think politically they can totally get rid of it, but they can certainly reduce benefits, right? So look at your number. Is it a number you can live on? And this is where the adjustment comes in, right? If you only have that as a source of income, and we want to talk about what other sources of income you should consider as you're planning. Like I'm talking to my kids and I'm saying you need to invest in a 403B. You need to put a little bit of money away every single week, every single month, and forget it and let it grow. Hopefully the system doesn't crash again and you lose part of it like we did in 2008. I lost like 40% of my 401k. Yeah, nightmarish. But doing that number, looking at that number and see, can I live off of that? And if that's the only source of income, which is kind of dangerous, how am I going to live, based off of that? So your standard of living right now may not be what you retire on. And that's why those little older folks are having to push the cart and bag the groceries to make ends meet. Okay? So the other thing, like I said, Social Security was not designed to be the only source of income for anyone. You should consider multiple sources of income. You've heard that before, right? And you would say, well, I don't know how else I can find, another source of income. Some people have rental properties. If you're in your 30s and 40s, that's probably a good investment because real estate is always a good investment. It goes in cycles. If it goes down, it will go back up, right? Some people have side hustles, maybe you can teach online, do some little, start thinking along those lines. Okay. What else some people have? As you retire, you may have your Social Security and you may have a little pension on the side. Add those up and see if you come up with a viable option. So like I said, you can have, don't base retirement income on stocks and bond because those are volatile and they can change. But a pension, I think the attorney said an annuity where you are guaranteed a certain income, that's something you can consider. Add those up and see whether you can live off of that. One question people like us who are here or on YouTube get a lot is, how much money do you need to live in Panama? Well, that's a loaded question and it's relative. Okay. I could live probably on $2,000 a month. Somebody else can live on $1,000 a month. It's all about perspective. It's all about what you expect your retirement to look like. Do you have to be in a Gulf community where you're paying fees? What do they call those? T? I don't golf, so I don't know. Where you're going to be paying HOA fees and membership fees and this and that. usually because you want to hang out with those who golf and who fish and that kind of thing. You got to start thinking about those things. If you have the means to live like that, by all means. But if not, you need to start shifting your thinking. So go do that homework, ssa.gov, look at your retirement date. Oh, another thing. If you say, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, I'm over this job, I'm tired, I want to just stop working, if you can also in ssa.gov put like a projected, let's say, well, how about if I retired on December 31st, 2024? What would my Social Security payments be? Now, you know it's going to be less, right? Because the earlier you retire, the less money you're going to have. And then there are penalties too. If you retire early and then you start working full time, they're going to start taking money away. It gets a little complicated. And I'm not an expert. I keep telling you guys, I am not an expert, not an attorney, not a CPA. If you have specific questions, make sure you go to the appropriate professional. Okay? So if you say, I want to retire 3 years before my due date, your retirement income is going to be cut. So again, be realistic and look at that number, not the number that you get at full retirement. It's very important. So go on ssa.gov and look around and peruse and get familiar with that website so you get all the information you need. Okay. So you start again thinking about retirement. It's not time. Your full retirement age is 4 or 5 years down the line. What else do you need to look at? Explore your financial options. Number two, can you afford to retire based on those numbers that you looked at in number one? Don't put your head in the sand and say, oh, let me hope and pray that it doesn't work that way. Do the math. Numbers don't lie. You cannot lie to yourself about stuff like that because you still have to live. You're probably going to pay rent, right? So don't be foolish. So explore your financial options. So you got your retirement, your Social Security payment early or at full retirement age. Do you have retirement income? Do you have the annuity? Hopefully, you have a financial person you can ask, even your CPA. What other ways can you fund your retirement? Do you have a pension? Do you have an annuity? Okay. The other thing you might think about is what about your home? Your home is an asset that you've been paying in for years, right? So you're going to have to decide if my Social Security payment is not up to par, can I keep my house and use that rental income to supplement my Social Security payment? This is what I am doing. And it makes it a lot easier. Do you still have a mortgage? It's important because if you have a mortgage, you're still going to have to pay the mortgage payment and your rent wherever you're going. When you put those two together, do you have anything less to live on? Listen, guys, this is serious stuff. You cannot play around with the numbers. Don't stick your head in the sand and pretend that you don't know. Like I say, Maggie's telling you, you need to look at these things objectively. All right? Don't Sometimes I see some questions that come not in the chat. I'm not having any chat, but like on the Facebook groups, and people are asking some basic question. And I'm like, I usually don't even respond because I'm like, this person has not put any thoughts. I have not done any research. They just want everything to be spoon fed to them. Maggie, tell me everything I need to do. Well, I'm telling you right now what you need to do. So please don't send me a message and saying, oh, how much is my Social Security? This is up to you to figure that out, not for me to tell you, right? So explore your financial option, your home, your pension, your annuity. So put those numbers together, okay? Now we're talking number one, the mindset, whether you can do it or not. And then the second one is the financial option. Those are solid data points that you need to make sure you get. All right, so we're assuming you were moving along. You've done number one and number two. Number three could be, are you a good prospect for retiring abroad? Because, not a lot of people are thinking of retiring abroad. We all think that we are going to stay in our area, in our home, and retire there. But I want to put a few things for you to think about. You're getting older, believe it or not, this body is going down. And I know people say, "Oh, Maggie, don't talk it like that." Well, I'm a nurse. We tell it like it is. This car is going to start breaking down. Joints, your back, your hips, your knee, you're going to fall. Can't hold your urine, you got to run to the bathroom. These are the things that happens as we age. And that's why I'm really, I think it's comical when I see people who are in their 60s and 70s that they're working hard, lifting all these weights. And I'm thinking, you could hurt yourself, okay? Because this body, once it starts getting older, it doesn't get stronger. You can slow down the progression, but it's going down. The example that I want to give you is, think about your heart, right? And we're not going to get into an abortion debate, but babies' hearts start beating very young, within weeks. That heart has been beating nonstop for my whole 67 years, 24/7. Do you know of any mechanical device that runs all the time and never breaks down? I'll wait. No. So your body is this. That's my analogy. This is a car. It's gonna start breaking down, and you're gonna have to replace some parts. Fake shoulder. We put knees and hips. We do all kinds of stuff. So you can go inject all the Botox you want in those lips and stretch your eyes, and the body's going down. Okay. So in your thinking, are you a good fit to retire abroad? So can you stay in your own home? How much help you gonna need? Do you have your children close by? Do you have good relationship with them? When something happens, will you have some help? Those are things you need to think about. So as I told you, the reason you're probably gonna think about retiring abroad is because your money is gonna stretch long enough, and healthcare costs, doctors, medication are a problem. Okay? But when we talk about, are you a good fit, it's more of a personality, attitude type of test, right? Have you traveled abroad? How many trips have you taken? How many countries have you visited? How do you feel about being around people who don't look like you? How do you feel about your neighbors down the street who may not look like you? Do you have friends who are not homogeneous, who don't all look like you? Do you have friends from other countries, other neighborhoods? How open-minded are you about being in a strange environment and having to live? Because there's a difference between visiting a country and living in a country. Did you know that? Because everything you're going to experience when you visit is going to be ooh and ah, ooh and ah. But when you rent a place and you have to deal with banking, bureaucracy, the mañana mindset, the laissez-faire, all the things we talked about in the previous video, how comfortable are you with those things? And please, please, please don't lie to yourself saying, oh no, I can do this, I can do this. But in your mind, it's going to come through. So please be true to yourself. Know thyself. Not everybody is a good candidate for living abroad. Understand that. Please, please, please. Okay? I'm not judging you. No shaming, no judgment. It's just an assessment of who you are. Do you have a flexible thinking pattern? Okay. Can you change your mind or are you set in your way? When somebody said the older they get, the more stubborn they become. Oh, she's set in her ways. Well, you know what? That is not a compliment. When somebody says she's stuck in her ways, that's just the way she is. To me, it means it's somebody who's rigid in character and in their thinking, and they are difficult, and I don't want to be around those people. You should be, as you get older, a sign of maturity is the ability to say, oh, I thought this was this way. I guess I was wrong. Being able to get information and shift your thinking is a sign of maturity and it's a sign of a flexible mind. If you don't have a flexible mind, you're not going to do well in a different country. If you haven't traveled anywhere outside of your little town you've been living in for 60 years, and all of a sudden you're going to transplant yourself and drop yourself in a place like Thailand or Panama, you are going to struggle. And you know what? Retirement should not be stressful. There are some things that are unexpected you're going to have to deal with, right? We all do. But if you can mitigate beforehand, this is why you need to go through this exercise. You contemplating, from contemplating to executing. Before I get to the last point, I want to stop right here and remind you to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss my videos. I am happy to tell you we are now about maybe 30 more subscribers to hit 1,000. Last video, I told you I was hoping to do it in 2 months, like in August. This is July 2nd, and we're going to hit it tonight. I cannot tell you how excited that is. That is so freaking excited. So that last video went bonkers. And I want to thank again all the new subscribers, every single one of you. I'm getting a ton of messages and information. I am making sure I answer every single message. And remember, when I give you somebody's name or somebody's contact, whether it's for transportation from the airport or a realtor, I'm not recommending anybody. Those are people that we work with, and I'm just passing on the information. You need to do your due diligence. Do not come back and say, Maggie recommended. No, I'm just sharing information. That's a disclaimer. I'm putting it out there in the universe. All right. We talk about being, are you a viable option? Is retirement abroad a viable option for you? Exploring your financial options. Be sure you do that. You do the math. You do that work. The third point was, are you a good prospect? And we talked about flexibility of thinking, being open-minded, very important. Please do not dismiss that point. You'll thank me later. The last point I'm going to do today, because I do have other points coming up in the next video. Can you do it alone? Are you independent? Are you somebody who was married for 55 years and never balanced a checkbook, didn't know how anything was done because you were a housewife and you did not know the way of the world? You were a homemaker, you never worked a day in your life? Whew, I hate to tell you, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. People who are independent are the people who would get up and go on a trip by themselves. This is somebody who might quit a job because it doesn't work for her and then embracing a new job, maybe in your 50s. People who are independent thinkers are entrepreneurs who are going to start a business. I did start a business, couple of businesses. And are you also a risk taker? Because being an independent thinker means that you are willing to take a risk knowing that you could lose. I lost a lot of money in my last venture. I lost my retirement money in my last venture, and I'm sharing this for the first time in the universe, with the universe. But I keep saying to myself, that was my money to lose, right? I had the option but yet I was willing to take the risk. And when it didn't work out, I would not have changed anything because the experience was amazing. And it gave you some opportunities that you wouldn't have had if you didn't take the chance. Are you a risk taker? Are you comfortable with the unknown? Or do you need to have everything planned out? I mean, I'm a planner, but I can't make up for every possibilities, any eventualities. So that particular character trait is so important for anyone who wants to consider retiring abroad. I remember landing in Rwanda, Africa at 2 o'clock in the morning with no Wi-Fi. The person to pick me up wasn't there, and I had to find my way getting in somebody's a strange person's car in a strange country. He couldn't find my Airbnb. Those experiences make you stronger. What doesn't kill you make you stronger, right? So you have to be the person that says, okay, and I'm like that. I'm very rational. I am a left brain. It's like something happens, I'm going to say, okay, all right, 1, 2, 3. What are my options? Option one, option two, option three. And I don't have analysis paralysis. Sometimes you got to go. I'm not asking you to have paralysis in here. I'm just asking you to do the work that needs to be done to do your self-assessment so you know whether you are a good candidate or not. I'm going to stop here because this is all part of the contemplating. Okay. And then next video, we're going to talk about, okay, Maggie, I think so. I think my financial options are viable. I've explored all the possibilities. And when I come with my number, I am able to shift and use the resources I have to fund my lifestyle, which could be different from what I'm used to. And I'm okay with that. I've been traveling. I'm open-minded. I can be around people who are different from me. And I'm an independent thinker. I can manage. When situations happen, I can strategize and get things done. Well, welcome. Welcome to the sisterhood. Welcome to the fraternity, whatever you want to call it, because those of us who are here, we are like that. The people who are going to stay here, who are going to become permanent expats in a different country, all have those traits. Okay? So if you don't feel that you have those traits, don't feel bad because this is not for everybody. And that's why you need to take the time to do the research so you don't get surprised and then sell your house, go over there and then say, oh my God, I'm miserable. I made a huge mistake. Which sometimes you still end up doing that, but you need to mitigate the likelihood that this will happen. So again, I always like to give you all the information that I have, and I try to be kind when I say it, but you know, I'm a straight shooter. I will tell you like it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. So I hope to see you in the next video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And then my next goal is the 2,000 point. I would love to come maybe in a month or two and say we reached 2,000, 2,500 because those watch hours are crawling by. We need 3,000 and we're like about, I don't know, 600, 700. So we have a long way to go. So please watch the videos longer. Watch to the end, and that's going to help me out. All right, guys. I always love talking to you and chatting to you. I wasn't as funny as the last video because this subject is a little bit heavier, but it's still all good. All right. God bless you. I love you. Au revoir. Bye bye. So in Panama, you're going to see a lot of those walkways. They're suspended path above highways. And this is the one that I go from my home to the Cinta Costera. This is the view. Look how pretty and beautiful. Oh my God. So I love to just get off the bus and just walk this so I can go to my building. But this is the view from the path, the elevated walkways that we have in Panama. Discovering Panama with Maggie.